It was a time for a update. You just seen I redid front seats on my Firebird Formula Trans Am. It's a Trans Am clone, but I just give you some perspective of it and how it's been coming along. You've been following along, so you already know all the work I put into it and the ups and downs and the challenges of doing it. But yeah, I thought, well, I'd just give you a quick walk around of it. It's not really quick. I'm moving slow, but there are paint chips here and there. Me putting it back together. I'll have to go back and touch all that up, which I'll do after I'm finished with the car. Right now, I'm still waiting on my bird, and I attempted to put a bird on the hood myself, and it was a big fail. There's no video of it because I was pretty upset about losing a $300 bird because I thought I could do it myself. But it was almost on there, and then one of the wings flipped under and grabbed the underside, and that was the end of that. So I ordered another one. I put a rush on it. I paid extra for the shipping, and unfortunately, it still didn't make it on time. It should have been here Saturday, and this is Monday, and it's scheduled to be here today. And I understand why it was behind, and I'm not too upset about it. I had forgotten that Veterans Day was this weekend, and I was really shooting to get to here, and because of my absent-mindedness, whatever you want to call it, I didn't take in consideration for Veterans Day. So it put my shipment one day behind. And I'm not mad about it because, you know, the veterans deserve their day. So my fault for trying to order it when I did. But it'll get here, and I'll get some friends here, and I'm going to get help. Even if it's just my wife, I'm going to have another set of hands helping me put this bird on. It really was looking good. I was like really impressed until I screwed up that wing. So that's my fault. But yeah, it's the way the car's looking. I'm pretty impressed with it myself, considering it was actually pulled from a junkyard to begin with. And it was going to be crushed. You know, they were going to destroy this car. And the only way I could get a title for it was a rebuilt title. You know, and by God, that's what I did. I wasn't going to let this car go to the crusher. And I know it was a lot of work, a lot of money. But you know what? I saved one. That's kind of the way I look at it. I saved the car from never being around again. You know, someday I won't be around. I hope this car is. You know, that's why I build them, to save them, and because it's my hobby. Things I still have to do on this car. I have to put a rearview mirror on it. I have to go find my wiper arms and blades and get those on. I still need to bleed the brakes, and I still need to tune it up. And rims and tires are going to wait. They're going to be my last thing after all the paint touch-ups and stuff. I will put the rims and tires on there. So just thought I'd give you an update on it. I think I'm going to go ahead and videotape myself and give you guys some insight on some experience I've had. And you may find it enlightening. You may find it stupid. You may find it funny. But I want to look back at some of the things I tried to buy, the cars, the trucks, and the response I've gotten. So I'll be back in a second. I thought I'd touch base on a couple things about buying old cars. For me, it doesn't mean it works for everybody. It doesn't mean you have the same experiences I have. But here's the thing. Many, many years ago, and I'm in my 60s, you know, I just wonder how long it's going to be when I can't work on cars anymore. But years ago, in a town next to ours, it was probably 20 years ago or more, there sat a 67 GTO behind a guy's house. It was teal. It was a 4-speed car. I had stopped to see if it was for sale, and he said no, he was going to work on it someday. And I said, if you ever wanted to sell it, let me know. I gave him my name and number and said, you know, I'm really interested in it. And he was nice enough to put my name and number in the glove box of the car in case he ever decided to sell it. Well, every year I'd stop and try to buy this GTO. He was a nice guy. He didn't get mad or upset or pissed because I was bothering him every year. Every year I go back, and every year he keeps telling me, no, I'm going to fix it up someday. And you hear that a lot in the car world. I'm going to fix it up someday. Well, 15, 20 years later, after asking for every single year, I found the car in the junkyard. It was actually sitting in a junkyard, completely stripped of its motor and tranny and interior. And it was rotted beyond belief. The car had sunk in his yard so bad that it rotted out the floors, the frame, everything. It became a scrap vehicle. And like I tell people, he kept telling me he's going to restore it someday. Well, there's 7 days in the week, and you can look on your calendar. Someday is not on there. There is no such thing as someday. I had the same thing happen to me with this Firebird. I had it sit behind my house, and you can't see it from the road, but we had a garage sale, and some guy spotted it between the fences, and he wanted to know if it was for sale. And my wife said, no, my husband's going to fix it up someday. And he said, well, most people never get to them. And he's correct. Most people don't. And my wife looked at him and said, you don't know my husband. That car will be restored. He may not get to this year. He may not get to it next year. But he will restore that car. And here it is. It actually sat in my backyard for 5 years. 5 years of life moving by you before I could get to it, because I, in the process, restored an 84 Chevy pickup. And after that, I restored a 70 Cutlass Supreme. And it was its turn. And when I got to it, it came into the shop. And I went out and bought parts cars. My wife knows, I've always told her, whenever you're restoring a car, you've got to have 3 of them, because you're going to be pulling parts off from them. You need at least 2 or 3 more parts cars sitting in your place that you can pull parts from. And if you followed me, and most of you have, you've noticed that I pull parts off my parts cars. They're sitting around. I got 2 over here on the lift. I got 1 sitting outside. And that's what I do. So what I'm trying to say is, if you're really not going to get to your car, and you really keep saying someday, and it's been over 10 years, it's time to sell that car to somebody that's going to do this. They're not going to leave it sit in a junkyard. They're not going to let it sit in their backyard and rot. They're going to restore this thing, you know? Yeah, it's a hobby, but I enjoy doing this stuff. I'm going to keep doing it until I can. Another story I came up with is, I decided that after this project, I was going to get another project. Now, of course, my wife's against that, but she knows I'm always working on something. I've always got something around. And I considered restoring one of these Trans Ams I have. You know, I got 3 Trans Ams sitting out here as parts cars. I've got 3 motors, 3 trannies, 3 rear ends. I got 3 cars. I got a T-top car, 2 hard-top cars. You know, my possibilities are endless. I have a 350. I have a 400, I have a 403. I've got 350 trannies, 400 trannies. I got posi rear ends, non-posi rear ends. So I could build another one, probably on the low side and not to this extreme. But do I really want to do another Firebird? I kind of like doing something I haven't done. I've done a pickup truck, a Chevy. I've done my Cutlass Supreme. I've done my Buick Skylark. I've done this Trans Am. And I've really been considering about doing something different. I'm a big GM fan, but I have owned Mustangs, 65, 6, 7s. I thought, well, maybe I'll do another Mustang. But really, my heart's not into another Mustang. It's not like you can't find one at a reasonable price, you can't get the parts, and you can't fix them. You can do that. I kind of thought, you know what, I want to go to way on the other side, and I want to get a Chrysler. I want to get a Dodge product. And I decided I was going to get me a Coronet, a 68 to 70 Coronet. I thought, man, they look really tough. I've never, ever restored one. I've never restored a mopar. Thought, wow, that'd be a hell of a challenge.
I have no clue what I'm doing. I'd be working my way all the way through it with no help. So I started searching the internet, and lo and behold, Chrysler products are crazy money. I would love to do one, but my bank account ain't gonna allow me to do a Mopar. I don't know if I will do a Ford. I kind of doubt it. Maybe I'll find something totally different out there. I don't know. I thought maybe a '69 Firebird. It's kind of down there, but again, it's another Firebird. So that's kind of out of my realm. I'm not sure what my next project's going to be. I'm hoping it's a Dodge, or a Plymouth. Road Runners, Cudas, they all look pretty cool. Challengers, Chargers, as long as they're old. But like I say, the Mopars are crazy, crazy money. But in my quest to find a coronet, like I say, I was looking on the internet, I was telling someone at work about it. And they said, well, the girl in the office, she has a '68 Super Bee sitting in a barn. And I'm like, what? She's got a Super Bee sitting in a barn? Said, yeah, it was her dad's. So next day or so, I found her and I was talking to her about it. And she loved talking about that car. That was her dad's car. Her dad had passed away and she got the car. But before he passed away, he had wrecked the car years before. He had smashed the front end into a school bus or some kind of a bus. And the front end was all smashed in. Well, he went out and bought a 4-door Coronet for the front end parts. Now, how bad it is, I don't know. I asked if she had any pictures. She said no. I asked if I could look at the car. She said no. But it's sitting in a barn somewhere in Indiana within a few miles of my house, from what I understand. And I asked her, I said, so why won't you sell the car? And she said, well, it was my dad's and it's sentimental value. Well, I understand sentimental value. And I'm like, I understand that. I said, if you don't want to sell the car, you really, really need to get somebody fixed up. Don't just leave it rot in a barn. She says, well, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. Well, a couple weeks go by and I seen her again and asked her, hey, have you considered anything on that Super Bee? And she said, well, I just can't sell it. My family wouldn't like me to sell it. And I tried to be as polite, as nice, and as understanding as I could. And I told her, I said, I understand there's sentimental value in that car. And I understand that car reminds you of your dad. It was your dad's car. That's great. But do you go and visit it out in the barn? You go out and look at it and say, wow, I remember my dad. I said, I'll bet you don't. And if I were able to purchase the car from you, I would restore it. It's going to take me years. I could restore it. You see it going down the road, and you're going to remember your dad. Hey, that was Dad's car. I said, you got to think about it that way. She goes, well, I don't know. So it's been probably 3 years now, and it's still sitting out there in the barn, still rotting to the ground. And I just seen her the other day, and I said, did you get the car out of the barn? Are you working on it? No, we can't afford to do that. I said, you really, really should consider selling it to someone. If it's not me, let someone else restore that car. Because I'm going to be super honest with you, and not to be hateful. That car is going to rot in that barn. That car is going to be unsavable down the road. There's going to be a point where no one's going to be able to save that car, and that car is going to go to the junkyard. When you pass, or whoever passes, your grandma, where it's hidden at, that car is going to go to the scrapyard. And you're not going to have nothing to remember of your dad except a pile of rust on that barn floor. And what are you going to do? Walk into your barn, pick up a pile of rust and say, hey, I remember you, Dad. Come on. You really got to wake up, take a look at what's going on. If you don't want me to own a car, I understand. If you don't want someone else to own the car, I understand. But you have to do something with it. Pass it on to a family member and let them restore it. There's got to be somebody in your family that would love to restore that car. And I've never, ever seen the car. I'm told it's yellow with a black bumblebee stripe on the back. I don't know. Like I say, I've never seen it. Here's a 383 car, and I hear it's a 4-speed car. So I don't know if it's original or not. I don't know my Mopars. But this little video is to tell people, don't let your car just rot into the ground. Don't let it just become scrap and crushed into soup cans or whatever they're making these days. If you have no intention of really working on that car, pass it on to a family member. Let them take a shot at it. You know, I got my dad's truck, my 84. That was my dad's. You know, he bought it when it was 1 year old or two. I'm pretty sure it was 1 year old. And I've enjoyed that truck. It's still sitting in my garage. And yeah, I don't drive it as much as I like, but I do drive it. And if you get a car, pass it on. Don't let it just rot. I mean, this thing could have been scrapped. You know, I pulled it out of the yard. I saved a car. You know, a lot of people go, oh, you wasted all your time and your money. No, I did not waste my time and my money. I had fun. I was pissed a lot. I was very upset with the aftermarket world. Couple eBay purchases were not what they were supposed to be in building this car. I'm not done yet. Like I say, I still got things I have to do to it, and I haven't even driven it yet. But I will. My wife knows we'll go out cruising in this thing. I just put the seat belts in it today. So, you know, that's my 2 cents on this hobby. There's so many cars out there behind houses, in barns, in garages, just rotting. You know, I've heard the stories, well, hey, my car's fine. I got it sitting in the garage. Well, there was a Olds 88 that I wanted to buy years ago, and the guy wouldn't sell it here in town. He said because him and his son were going to restore it. And his son's like, yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun. I said, oh, that's fantastic. Father-son project. You guys ever need any parts or information or I can help you with? Let me know. Well, a couple years go by and the son committed suicide. And the dad was very, very upset. And I didn't go back over. I didn't talk to him about the car. About 3 years later, I got a phone call and he wanted to know if I wanted to purchase the car. And I said, well, I don't know. And he goes, well, come on over and look at it. He goes, I got it in the garage. He goes, it's just sitting in there. We really haven't done anything to it. I go, okay, I go over there. This car is sitting in a garage that's leaning, and there's a condemned notice on the garage. He said he had to tear the garage down. That's why he needed the car out of there. City condemned the building. Well, opening the doors up, this car is literally filled with trash. And I'm not lying. The tops of the car is full of boxes and trash. The hood's covered in trash, garden hoses, anything you can imagine. You can't even walk around the car. I was able to squeeze through on the driver's side. And sitting in that garage, being unattended, the raccoons had gotten in. The raccoons had shit all over the interior of that car. They had shit all over the hood of that car. That car at that point was scrap. And I told him, I said, it's just not worth the money anymore. I said, I don't want anything to do with it. And he offered it to me at a very, very reasonable price. And I said, no, it's just, you let it go. You let it become where it's unsavable now. I heard through the grapevine, never did talk to him, that he sold it to a scrapper for $100 who came out with a flatbed, winched it out of the garage, and went right to the scrapyard. And that's sad. That car, 5-6 years before that, was well worth the money and could have been saved. So, hey, that's my input on it all. If you find my videos interesting, you know, consider subscribing. This project's going to probably finish up sometime by the summer. You know, right now we're looking at what? November 13th. So probably by next year in the summer, I should have rims and tires on it, wipers, seats put back in it. Seats are over here under bags, waiting to be installed. I still have those seat tracks soaking in cleaner, trying to get a lot of that grease out of there. I may have to pull them apart. I really don't want to. I've pulled them apart before and they're really a pain to get back together. But hey, thanks for watching my video and please consider subscribing.